Well, hello, 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 hello. Happy, is it Tuesday? I can never get it straight. Yeah, it's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I thought I'd wear my Cummins sweatshirt today in case you guys forgot what my last name is. I am Miss Cummins. Fun fact, I had no idea that Cummins is like a fancy diesel engine in trucks. So I saw a Cummins stick on a car, and this is from the Cummins Diesel Company. Husband got them for us for Christmas this year. Fun things you learned about your last name 8 years later, 9 years later. I can't remember how long I've been married. Okay, a couple of things. Today we're going to read the chapter called The Grave Diggers, not to be confused with the monster truck, The Grave Digger. Also, in case you didn't get the email that I sent to your parents, my class especially, out in front of Miss Nogdave's house by her mailbox, right behind her mailbox by the curb, there's a bin of Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe books and reading response journals. So my class, you need to make your way over there some point today before 5 and pick up a book and a journal so that you're ready to go for next week. Miss Nogdave said most of her class actually got the book and the journal that one day that everybody came to school and picked up their belongings. So if you already have one, please do not take another one because there's only enough for one per person. So if that means you lost it, you can't find it, then you're on your own. Okay. So you probably put it somewhere, not sure where it is. This is your time to recover it before next Monday when we start. Okay. So once again, my class especially, please go by Miss Nogdave's house. Don't bother her. There's just a bin right behind her. It's like a brick mailbox holder by the curb. Grab one book and one reading response journal for Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe so that you're ready for next week. And Miss Nogdave's only if you didn't get one way back when you guys were coming to pick up your personal belongings. So make a pact to do that. Might be a good idea to get outside, go for a little walk. If you've been boarded up in the house, take your dog for a walk. Put it on your list with a Post-it note so that Miss Nogdave can be done with it. Pull in the bin later tonight and call it a day. All right, so Grave Diggers. Here we go. Still using my Post-it note that I found in Kara Nogdave's from like fish, I think, or something. All right, the Grave Diggers. So we left off, they were talking about how Cut-Eye, of course, pulled another fast one on them, said that the map was inside his white linen coat, inside the lining. They meet that guy who can't sit down because he got shot in the bum. He's a recovered road agent. He gives them the jacket. They think they're going to find the map. No map. Once again, Cut-Eye has told them to look one way, but actually something else is happening. They heard that there's a dentist named Doc Higgins in Shirttail Camp, so they're headed towards Shirttail. And Praiseworthy's been talking about the return back to Hangtown to have his fight with Mr. Mountain Ox on August the 15th. And Jack's kind of worried about it. He's like, you seem kind of confident, and that guy's supposed to be huge. You're not going to have your glove with the gold in it. And Praiseworthy's like, no worries, I've got this. I don't know if that's so true. Okay, and like I said, The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin is on Disney Plus. So just write Bullwhip Griffin, it comes up. But I would recommend watching it after you take your test on Friday because it will confuse you because the movie is totally different than the book. About 50% of it's totally different. So maybe it could be family movie night this weekend, Friday night. I know the Nogdaves were talking about watching it on Friday night. It's a great family movie, good for the whole family. I think you guys will really enjoy it, but you'll also be like, come on, that wasn't in the book. All right, the Grave Diggers. They were 2 days finding their way to Shirttail Camp. They followed the South Fork of the American River into the winding Coloma Valley. The summer hills were red and yellow. They passed within 10 feet of Old Cap Sutter's sawmill. Sutter, Johann Sutter. Woohoo! Jack heard everyone in the diggings refer to Sutter as Old Cap, and he knew the miners' yarns about the sawmill. He looked at it now, a rough timbered shack on stilts at the water's edge. Old Cap had hired a carpenter named Jim Marshall to build it. Why not James Marshall? That was the way the yarn began. On a chill January morning in 48, the carpenter spied a yellow glitter in the tail race. He thought it might be fool's gold until he beat it with a rock. That was the test. Fool's gold was brittle and would splinter. Real gold was soft and would flatten out. The lump flattened out like a yellow button. Marshall rushed off to Sacramento, where Old Cap had built a fort, and arrived in a pouring rain with the news. He made Old Cap bolt the door, pulled a white cotton rag from a pocket of his wet pantaloons, and revealed his discovery. Jim Marshall was so excited he could barely speak. The two men tried other tests. They got bowls of water and a scale. Using an equal amount of silver, they weighed the two metals underwater. The gold was heavier. Then they tested the samples with acid to see if they would corrode. They wouldn't. There was no longer any question about it. Marshall's discovery in the tail race. He had found gold. Well, the news leaked out and the rush for yellow treasure began. Squatters came swarming into the valley, and now a town had sprung up on both sides of the river. Jack had never seen so many long toms and rockers in his life. And social studies this week, we're going to learn about those long toms. They were like a big old slide that had little bumps on it, so you could dump a whole bunch of dirt and water, and it would go down the slide. And since gold's heavier, it would stay in the little low parts of the bumps, and then the water and the less heavy dirt would just slide right down back into the river. Is this the way to Shirttail Camp? Praiseworthy asked a miner standing knee-deep with water and mud. Just follow the river, and if you hurry, you might get there in time for the hanging. A lot of the boys is taking the day off for the festivities. Praiseworthy shrugged. We're in no hurry, my partner and I. It's that dentist fella. They caught him trying to run off on a stolen horse. Praiseworthy and Jack exchanged a quick glance. The map. Only Cut-Eye Higgins knew where Dr. Buckbee's gold bonanza might be. He couldn't talk very well hanging from a limb, much as he deserved it, no doubt. On second thought, said Praiseworthy, we're in a terrible hurry. Good day, sir. They arrived at Shirttail Camp in an hour. It was a dusty village of round tents and square tents and plank shacks roofed with pine boughs. There, said Jack, there he is. He saw Cut-Eye Higgins seated on a horse under the limb of a tree. He wore his jippy-jappa hat, and around his neck was a noose. The scar across his eye set his face at a hard squint, and a crowd was ringed around him. We're just in time, said Jack. We're just in time, Jack murmured. Praiseworthy whipped out Stubbs' red bandana, blindfold, and quickly tied it around Jack's face. Partner, you've got a terrible toothache. Huh? Moan now and then, good and loud. Come on. Jack gulped and followed Praiseworthy through the crowd. A paunchy man with a curly fringe of whiskers from ear to ear seemed to be in charge of the festivities. From ear to ear seemed to be, Doc, he was saying, you know the verdict of the jury. As justice of the peace of Shirttail Camp, I'll see you get a good burying as benefits a professional man such as yourself. We don't mind so much that you extracted a gold pouch every time we opened our mouths. There's plenty of yellow around, and that you might have light-fingered every pocket watch in town so that nobody knows what time it is. You're a professional man, and we tried to make allowances. But horse stealing, it's a heinous crime, and you got to pay the penalty. Since you said your last words 2-3 times already this afternoon, let's get on with it, boys. Boys, switch that horse. Hold on, demanded Praiseworthy, stepping forward. I've got a lad here with a powerful toothache. The justice of the peace threw down his hat. Doggone it, that's the third time today. We'll never get him strung up. I beg of you, gents. We've come a long way, and it's only will take a moment. The boy's in pain. Listen to him moan. Jack bellowed and held a hand to his cheek. He actually wasn't pretending. He was downright scared that they actually might let Cut-Eye Higgins pull out one of his teeth. All right, said the chin-whiskered official. Get the doc down off the horse. Here, give him back his forceps and bring that molasses barrel for the boy to sit on. Jack moaned again, and watched the men help Cut-Eye Higgins off the saddle. He seemed a little weak in the knees, so they cut the rope binding his wrist behind his back, but left the noose around his neck. He peered from Jack to Praiseworthy. It was a moment before he recognized the butler in his red shirt, jack boots, and whiskers. Never thought I'd be glad to see you again, he said. His face was pale, and his usual sneer was gone. Reluctantly, Jack seated himself on the molasses barrel, and the doomed man clapped an eye on him. Open your mouth, son, and stop squirming. Jack took one look at the steel forceps. Those are big, like metal clamps you grab on to a tooth and yank it out. Jack took one look at those steel forceps in Cut-Eye Higgins' shaky hand. Yeah, you don't want a dentist with a shaky hand. And decided that a team of mules wasn't going to get his mouth open. Let's see them ivories, Cut-Eye Higgins said under his breath. I'll just tinker. You didn't come to me to have any yank now, did you? We came for the map, Praiseworthy muttered. I figured. Get me out of this and the map is totally yours. Praiseworthy nodded. It's a bargain. I'll do the best I can, but first, the map. I don't trust you even with a noose around your neck. Cut-Eye Higgins lifted off his jippy-joppa hat and fished a thick folded strip of brown paper out of the sweatband. It was as if he kept it there only to make his hat fit. When he returned the hat to his head, it slipped down almost to his ears. There's my part of the bargain. Now you keep yours. Open them jaws, boy. Jack swallowed hard and opened up. The crowd watched and waited. Cut-Eye Higgins wiped the forceps on his sleeve and set to work. Praiseworthy opened up the folds of brown paper, studied the markings, and within seconds he saw that the foxy scoundrel had outfoxed them again. The map traced a long line along the North Fork of the American River, through the Coloma Valley, and ended with an X mark that could only be Shirttail Camp. Why, this map is no good, snapped Praiseworthy. I didn't say it was, except to make my hat fit. But that's the map that Buckbee's brother made before he died. The same, the genuine article. Only in the meantime, them pockets of gold got discovered all over again. By the time I got here, there were 100 miners on that very spot. Jack moaned, ah! As best as he could with the forceps, trying to spread his teeth apart. Their 50-50 share of Dr. Buckbee's mine was completely worthless. Cut-Eye Higgins had led them on a wild goose chase. I don't know if you guys know that expression, but when you say it's a wild goose chase, if you try to catch a goose, the goose is going to run all over the place and you're going to get close and then it slips away. That's how they feel like it's been. Get me out of this noose, said Cut-Eye Higgins. That was our bargain, wasn't it? Praiseworthy ripped the map to bits. He'd given his word and he had to stand by it. Gentlemen, he said, turning to the justice of the peace and others grouped around him. I take it you have acted as judge and jury in this here case? That's right, answered the official. He got a fair trial. Anyway, he was caught red-handed. Was he represented by counsel? What for? We all knew he was guilty. Under what law do you intend to dispatch Doc Higgins from the limb of that tree? Why, everybody knows that stealing horses is against the law. What law are you referring to? Now listen here, stranger. There ain't a law book within 50 miles that I know of. I hear they had one over at Growlersburg, but it was printed on thin paper, and the boys took to rolling cigarettes with it instead. Speaking for myself, I don't see any reason to let law interfere with justice around here. We never did before. Now remember, California was not a state yet. It was owned by the United States, but not a state. No government, no cops, no jail, no laws. So this kind of, they called it miner's law, which means people kind of beat you up if you didn't do what they wanted you to do. And there was no one to do anything about it. Praiseworthy began pacing slowly back and forth. In the absence of book law, gentlemen, I recommend to your notice that humanity is also lacking in this here case. You're about to string up the only dentist in these diggings. Is that human? He may deserve his fate, but what of the innocent whose only crime is to come down with a horrible toothache? Praiseworthy turned and made a grand courtroom gesture towards Jack. Like my young partner there, think of the pain and suffering you will inflict on those in dire need of a tooth extractor. Tomorrow it may be you, sir, or it may be you, sir, with your cheeks swelled up like a melon, or you, sir, Mr. Justice of the Peace, with a pain in your jaw as if you had a bee for a molar stinging away from morning until night. Oh, the pain! One by one, he singled out the gentlemen of the jury, and one by one they found themselves rubbing their jaws as if they could almost feel a toothache coming on. Praiseworthy had never made a speech in his life, but the words rolled off his tongue, and he could feel their effects on the crowd. When he finished, he was greeted with a yell of approval. He's talking science, someone called out. The doc can't pull teeth when he's 6 feet under. We could put him in jail. The justice of Shirttail Camp shook his head. Boys, we ain't got a jail. You know that. The verdict was string him up. But I suppose I could delay his sentence a bit until another tooth extractor shows up in these parts. There's bound to be one before long, and then we'll get on finally with his sentence. There was general approval from the crowd, and 2 toothaches broke out on the spot. Praiseworthy was astonished by the power he had found in his voice. The 2 miners got in line at the molasses barrel, and Jack was glad to give up his place. Oh, my tooth has stopped hurting, he said, and Cut-Eye Higgins gave him a little wink with his bad eye. Doc Higgins, said the justice of the peace, you got yourself a temporary reprieve. When you finish with them extracting jobs, you stand still and we're going to build a jailhouse right around you. There'll be visiting hours for anyone who has a toothache, but I'll see you hung yet and as soon as possible. Now think about that's hilarious. They'll all stand still and we're going to build a jail around you and you get visiting hours to pull teeth. So they're like putting a shack right around them. It makes me laugh. I don't know why. Then he turned to Praiseworthy. Stranger, I promised the doc a good burying befitting a professional man. Might as well get all in readiness. Since you appointed yourself counsel for the defense, you get up in the hills and you dig him a resting place. Make it 6 feet deep. Why 6 feet? Don't be cantankerous or I'll fine you for being in contempt of court. Everybody knows a grave has got to be 6 feet deep. Now get going. The two partners returned to their burrow and led them into the hills above the diggings. You sure made a really good speech, Jack said. It was something to hear. A regular lawyer could not have done better. And you saved Cut-Eye Higgins from being strung up. It's just temporary, which is all that he deserves anyway. They chose a bare spot about half a mile from camp. It was on a bluff covered with oat straw and overlooking the river. They pulled pick and shovel from Stubbs' pack ropes and they set to work. Oh, fine looking country, isn't it? Praiseworthy muttered, even to be buried in. Jack tried not to think about Boston. It would soon be time to start back, and all they had to show for their labors was a worthless map. They don't even have that. Didn't he rip it up? Poor Aunt Arabella, he thought they would lose the house for sure. The entire trip to California was beginning to look like a wild goose chase. When they got the hole 4 feet deep, they couldn't go any farther. They hit bedrock, and they struck gold. Eureka! So here they are digging Cut-Eye Higgins' grave, and in the process of digging his grave, they have found gold. Now the question is, can they keep it deep undercover so nobody knows? One. Number two, can they get the gold and not get beat up to get the gold back home and get it to Aunt Arabella? This is very exciting. We don't know how much gold. Could be just a little bit of gold, but it's looking pretty good. So super exciting. Okay, so next chapter is called the 15th of August. Now, we all know what's happened on the 15th of August, which is interesting. We just left with them finding gold. So we're like, yay, they're rich. They can get out of there. But Praiseworthy is a man of his word, and he guaranteed that he'd come back on the 15th of August, and he's not a guy who wants people talking poorly about him. So I think he has every intention of doing this fight, even though Jack thinks he's not going to live to tell the tale. So you guys are going to really like this next chapter. It's silly. In the movie of The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin, it's hilarious, super funny. They're like fighting, and then like cartoon people fly over their head when they get hit really hard, and it's usually the part that the kids love the most in the movie. So, little something to look forward to for tomorrow. My class, I will see you at 1:00 today. Please bring your social studies book, a pencil, and your chapter review packet. And Miss Nogday's class, I will see you tomorrow at 11, along with my class. And then Thursday, we will have our social studies with Miss Nogday's class. Don't forget that on Friday, we're going to have our online test for By the Great Hornspoon, which is the entire book. So you want to look back at the questions for each chapter. It is multiple choice, and you will know your test score right when you submit. So when you submit, it's going to tell you how many you missed, what your percentage is. So you'll have instant information. And it also logs how long it took you to take the test, even though it's not really a time test, but just kind of gives me an idea of how long it's taking you to get through these tests as well. Okay, that's all for me. Don't forget to go pick up your Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe from Miss Nogdave's house. I can't talk. House. Post-it notes so you don't get distracted and forget or fall asleep. And we'll see you later. Bye, guys. Have a great day.